Welcome one and all to another edition of How I Would Book It WWE 2015. The reason why Smackdown and Raw are two separate videos this week is because of the length that Raw went. As you could probably see on the video now, Raw went 25 minutes, and I do believe that there has to be a limit on how far over the video length limit is allowed for YouTube, and I think going over a half hour would probably be way too far over that limit. With that being the case, SmackDown and Raw are two separate videos. Now, I could do that every week where I make Raw its own video and SmackDown its own video with main event, or I could try and have it Raw and SmackDown together. I don't know what I'm going to do yet. And also, feel free to state your opinion on what you think would be the best way to go. Should I do Raw and SmackDown together with main event? Or should I just have Raw by itself and main event and SmackDown together? Or should I just not even do main event? Like, not even document main event? Let me know. Feedback is always welcomed. As you can tell, the show would start off with SmackDown would start off with Dean Ambrose and Bray Wyatt in the ring. This is coming off Bray and Dean's match at the first Raw of 2015, and their first time in the ring together since Survivor Series. As I've had Dean begging for another match, begging for another match for the entire month of December, but Bray didn't want to give him one, and Dean finally got one from General Manager Brad Maddox. And Bray was pissed off because Dean beat him on Raw, and Bray didn't even give Dean the opportunity to say a word as Bray attacked Dean in the ring, and they start brawling. But before things can take a violent turn, Staff hits the ring to break him up. Dean and Bray are attacking the Staff, and they go right back after each other. But now more people are starting to empty out from the locker room, and this fight, before it becomes anything too serious, Staff finally breaks him up and separates him, taking Dean out of the ring and separating them as we move to the announce position with this. As Jerry Lawler, Michael Cole, and Byron Saxton talk about the fact that we're going to be seeing Christian's Peep Show later tonight with the guests, Miz and Mizdow. Here I would highlight show highlights of Raw because, like I said, I believe in the Raw episode, I always thought that showing the major happenings from the previous show would make them more important and make people be like, oh crap, I missed this, I gotta watch the show next week. And it gives the show more importance because you're highlighting things in the big picture. Also, if somebody missed the show, they can catch up what happened. They can catch up on what happened. It just gives you the ability to keep the fans into what's going on. Here we have the Dust Brothers versus Primetime Players, and the Dust Brothers are defending the tag team titles. The reason why the PTP get the tag team title shot. See, I know the Nation are feuding with the Dust Brothers, but PTP, since becoming a tag team again, is undefeated. They became a tag team again. I believe I reformed their tag team back in December. But they're undefeated as a tag team. Also, it's a part of the storyline because the Nation lost to the New Day last week. Earlier in the week on WWE.com, I would have the Dust Brothers come out and say, the Nation don't deserve a tag team title shot anymore. They're willing to give somebody a tag team title shot on Smackdown, basically giving an open challenge to any tag team which the Primetime Players would accept. And as you can also see, the Primetime Players come up short. Now we move to an interview with Stardust being interviewed by Booker T about Mark Henry and D'Lo, which is basically where they once again say they are not giving the Nation a tag team title shot until they can beat the New Day, because at this point, the New Day deserve a tag team title shot more. Now, we move on, and Bray and Dean are going at it again as a camera meets up. Scratch that. The announcers are told something's going on backstage, and once the camera catches up to it, they see Dean and Bray are going at it again. And this time, there's no staff or there's nobody breaking it up in sight. And they're hammering away at each other until a host of road agents and staff pull them apart and try and separate them. But first Dean breaks out of it and goes right back after Bray, and then Bray breaks apart from it and goes right after Dean. These two are showing how uncontrollable they are, as it's the second time they break down and fight each other in the same show. Now we move to Dolph Ziggler getting back in the ring for the first time in a couple weeks. Actually, first time in 2015 against Eric Rowan. Now, let me just say, Eric Rowan, he did turn babyface back in November in real life. I kept him as a heel. That's all you need to know. Divas video package highlighting the Divas feud and what's gone on thus far between them. Paige and AJ discuss later tonight as Paige is going up against Brie Bella, and they also discuss the Royal Rumble where AJ is defending the title against Nikki, and both divas offer each other's help. And say that because they know the other Bella is going to be with, Brie's going to be with Nikki and Nikki's going to be with Brie, they both offer to watch each other's back. Seth Rollins interviewed by Booker T. What I'm going to be doing is one time each week to make it a bigger deal. This is not the traditional interview. This is an interview where, sort of like Michael Cole does every week on on the YouTube channel, where usually he interviews Triple H, but recently he's been interviewing Roman Reigns or John Cena or Brock Lesnar. That's what I'm going to be doing here, but instead of Michael Cole, it's Booker T. Because I'm going to be... Right now, I want it to be live. Where it feels like it's live, because it's not because the person who's giving the interview is not somebody who's in the announce booth. That could change. It probably will, to make it more real. But right now I'm going to be doing that like this. Now we move on. R-Truth and Fandango. Why is it like... Well, think about it, and you'll arrive how this could lead to something bigger. Now we move on. Christian is introduced, as Christian at this time is still injured, and is away from the product because of his injury, but this is because of his injury, and this is a way for me to get Christian ingratiated once again in the product. The Peep Show with Christian, The Miz, and Mizdow. This is where I would have the reaction for Mizdow be better, start being noticeable, that the reaction for Mizdow is bigger than The Miz. Why? Because these two will be having a bigger match at WrestleMania, let's put it that way. And because of The Miz getting jealous of Mizdow's reaction, and for lack of a better word, bitching at Mizdow, telling him to stay in his shadow, to back off, and stay back, not take his spotlight, that makes Christian pop up and tell Miz to back off, because Christian knows what it's like to be in somebody's shadow. And he doesn't like that Miz is telling Mizdow to stay in his shadow, even though Mizdow is obviously getting the bigger reaction. And this leads to a heated confrontation between Miz and Christian. Now we have Paige and Brie, which Brie won this match. No help from her sister, she just won clean, because I hate how WWE usually does Divas matches where one diva, namely Paige, I hate how often WWE makes dusty finishes or dirty finishes with certain matches. And this leads to a 2-on-1 attack between the Bellas on Paige, and AJ runs in to save Paige. Now we move backstage with Mark Henry and D'Lo with Booker T, getting interviewed about Stardust and Goldust. Before Mark and D'Lo can say much, they are interrupted by Xavier Woods. And Xavier Woods says, "You will not prove anything. You will not prove that you deserve a title shot again until you can beat the New Day." This sets up a rematch from last week's Raw against the New Day and the Nation on this week's Raw. A video package plays highlighting the history between John Cena and Brock Lesnar. By the way, the main event tonight is Seth Rollins versus Cesaro, because this show was centered around Seth Rollins. Probably could have chosen a better main event, because main event got a 69, and for a national company, that's not good. Which is what I am. Yep. In reality, because increased our popularity in 18 regions, but lost popularity in 16, I technically gained popularity in 2 regions. With the frequency that I lose popularity, that's not good. It's not good. As you can tell, Mark Andrews is the same guy who won TNA Boot Camp, British Boot Camp. But with the amount of times that I lose popularity, that's not good. Let's put it that way. Until next time, guys, I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you at Raw.